Well, for a ride that Disney once touted as one of their most popular attractions and used it in advertising and many different TV shows over the years, Splash Mountain has become something that Disney has definitely want to get rid of out of their parks as they have converted Well, for a ride that Disney once had touted and advertised and put into shows and commercials and all sorts of things when it came to the Disney parks, which is Splash Mountain. But those days are long gone, as since then, Disney has changed Splash Mountain at Disney World in Disneyland over Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And they have gone out of their way in the existing parks to basically get rid of any trace elements of Splash Mountain ever being there. But there is one park that still has a Splash Mountain, and that is over in Tokyo Disneyland. But we have a rumor here from WWNT that is talking about that may be also changed in Tokyo also. So let's read through this article and give some thoughts on it here. So hi, I'm Jared the Captain Magic. Again, this is from WWNT, written by Tom Corliss, and it says, rumor, Disney plans to replace Splash Mountain at Tokyo Disneyland. In 2020, it was announced that Splash Mountain at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom and at Disneyland Park would be closed and converted into a ride themed to Disney's The Princess and the Frog. Since that time, the Disney fandom, and in many cases the general public, have voiced their opinions on the removal of what had become one of the more iconic Disney Parks attractions produced by the second generation of Walt Disney Imagineers, and have continued to voice those opinions once seeing the finished product of Tiana's Bayou Adventure in Florida, or seemingly a ride that basically runs part of the time, really.
Number one, how dare you?
What seemed to be lost in the shuffle was that Tokyo Disney Resort and its managing Oriental Land Company were holding out on said project, leaving one problematic log flume attraction remaining in Disney's portfolio. I would say problematic to Disney, but I don't believe it's problematic to Tokyo Disneyland, as that's one of the more popular attractions in that entire park. And actually, a lot of people have talked about that it was the best Splash Mountain was the one over in Tokyo. So that is something else got going for it. It's understandable that there's no desire to replace a popular ride in a region that only sees Splash Mountain as a collection of cute country critters. Japan culture, if you don't understand much about it or know much about it, they very much do love cute, like cartoon-like critters, I guess you could call them. Which is one reason why Splash Mountain is very popular over there, is because of all the, the critters and things in the ride. However, it does make sense that Disney would like the Tokyo version of Splash Mountain to close, as their name is on the resort as a whole. While you and I are aware that Tokyo Disney Resort is owned and operated by the Oriental Land Company, a vast majority of the world would assume that Disney controls the property, as they do a majority of their parks around the world. It says WDWNT has spoken to a number of sources inside the Walt Disney Company in the last 4 years about the possibility of Splash Mountain closing in Japan, with the initial story seeming to be that Oriental Land Company was simply not interested in the overlay and believes their audience doesn't connect emotionally to the Princess and the Frog film. I mean, if I'm being fair, if we're being quite honest, I mean, the Princess and the Frog has an audience, but it wasn't this major box office success either. So I could see definitely how over in Japan, a movie, perhaps that movie just never caught on. I mean, not everything from America that goes to other countries becomes really popular. And some stuff that's not popular in America does become popular in other countries. But, if they don't think that there's an audience for that movie, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. Walking around the Tokyo Disney Resort shops and even Disney stores throughout Japan will give you an idea of what the Japanese guests do connect with. From cute animal characters like Donald Duck, Chip and Dale, Dumbo, the Aristocrats, and Bambi, to adorable sci-fi buddies such as Stitch and Baymax. When it comes to Disney princesses, the Frozen sisters are unrivaled in the land of the rising sun, but you'll certainly see a lot of love for others such as Rapunzel, Cinderella, and Belle. You will be hard-pressed to find merchandise for the Princess and the Frog, nor even the critters like Louis the alligator or Ray the firefly. Very simply, I believe Oriental Land Company knows their audience well, and the Princess and the Frog doesn't appear to resonate with them. As time has progressed, we've heard stories of Disney continually asking the Oriental Land Company to reconsider the project, but the reoccurring story we have been told is that Disney was willing to foot some of the bill if Tokyo Disneyland would replace the ride. The other consistent rumbling was that Tokyo would not build Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but instead would ask Walt Disney Imagineering to design something wholly unique for this replacement that would fit the area adjacent to Western Land and Fantasyland in the park. According to sources, Oriental Land Company has agreed to whatever Disney's offer may have been, and a team of Imagineers is hard at work creating a replacement for the world's last Splash Mountain. In the last few days, I have read some ill-informed online discourse about the project, claiming Disney threatened Oriental Land Company in some way to carry this out. No sources we have spoken to have indicated that there is any hostility between the two sides. We are seemingly pretty happy with their business arrangement. I highly doubt if Disney was angry at them that they would be allowing Oriental Land Company to enter the lucrative cruise business in the coming years. If we had to guess that when Splash Mountain may close forever at Tokyo Disneyland, we don't think it will be too soon. At the earliest we're expecting is 2027, 2028, as there are several large projects ongoing at the park and are greatly impacting operational capacity. As for what Disney intellectual property may take over the mountain in Tokyo's Critter Country, that remains a well-guarded mystery. None of our sources would say what might be in store, but OLC does have a history of tipping their hands with future projects if you simply pay attention to what franchises they start to include more often in their merchandise, food, and entertainment. Our best guesses at this point are Pocahontas, Chippendale, or Bambi, but again, these are wild shots in the dark and not based on any information we have received. However, Pocahontas recently received a prominent role in the Harmony in Color Parade. It is also featured in the stunning rock work of Fantasy Springs, so there does seem to be a focus on the franchise currently at that resort. So there's been a string of rumors coming out of WDWNT lately. I'm not going to sit here and claim to know the veracity of any of them. There was one about Marvel Superhero Island. That Universal is actively looking to get rid of that, which I contend, even if they were looking at that from a creative standpoint, I think from a business standpoint, that really doesn't make any sense and that they wouldn't do that. When it comes to this one, I could see a scenario where obviously Disney wants to get rid of Splash Mountains everywhere, and they want to basically act like Splash Mountain never existed. So I'm sure they've had these conversations many times. And again, if you're not familiar with how it operates at Tokyo Disneyland, is basically the setup is Oriental Land Company runs it, and Disney, they have an agreement where they can use Disney IPs in those parks. So a lot of the things you see that are coming out of Tokyo Disneyland look fantastic. It is not, I mean, they work with the Disney Corporation to come up with these things, but they very much kind of do what they want over there in terms of like the type of stuff they add in there. And you're seeing like Rapunzel and you're seeing Frozen stuff, like a lot of stuff that I think would make a lot of sense on the state sides, put something in like Magic Kingdom or other places like that. But in terms of this one, I do know the Splash Mountain there is very, very popular. So I would imagine if they are going to replace this, I could see a scenario where they basically say, if you want to get rid of it so bad, then you pay for all of it. And that very well could be, if they did come to some sort of agreement to do this, that it just came down to Disney saying, basically agreeing to, like, we will pay to have this, taken care of. Because from Tokyo's perspective, if it's a popular ride, and even if Disney's saying we'll pay half, well, why would you still spend millions of dollars to replace something that for your audience they enjoy? So basically, if Disney is really pushing to get rid of this, if you're Oriental Land Company, you would say, okay, fine, then you're going to pay for the whole thing. That may be what they came to an agreement here. We may never know the specifics of it, but if you're looking at it from the way that agreement is set up, that would make a lot of sense, because again, even if Disney was going to pay for part of it, that's still a lot of money to put into something to change that. This was the same argument that people had about Splash Mountain being changed to Tiana's Bay Adventure. It was a ride that was popular and people enjoyed it. It was one of the, if you look at a lot of the surveys being done, it was a top 5 most popular attraction at Disney World, like all of Disney World, all the parks. So on Tokyo's perspective, even if Disney corporate, they want to get rid of it for other reasons, being tied to Song of the South and things like that, the Tokyo audience probably doesn't much understand that, and they just like it for the critters and things of that nature. But it not being Tiana's Bay Adventure, I can understand that and see that, because again, even in the States side, I mean, Tiana's didn't make that much money. I mean, she is, obviously people do like her and they like that movie. It has its audience, but as a whole, it's not one of the most successful Disney movies that they've ever come out with. So especially if you're talking about overseas, it may have never just caught on there. It would be not a really good idea at all to replace a very popular ride that audience doesn't probably understand all the stuff behind Splash Mountain and why some people, want to get rid of it and things, to replace it with a franchise that they don't understand or know. So they would probably, again, want to replace it with something like they were talking in the article that is, pertains to their audience. In terms of, is this true? I think it probably has some credence, just given, I imagine Disney just wants to get rid of it everywhere, and having one last Splash Mountain out there, as adamant that they have been about getting rid of this and really wiping out anything to do with Song of the South inside the parks, and even historical references anywhere to the movie, I can see how this is something that Disney is pushing, and that very well could happen. But we'll have to wait and see on that. And perhaps people in the audience have more information on that, because again, we haven't gone to Tokyo Disneyland. It's a place we would like to go to, but I can't say I know a ton about how they operate really over there. I know they do operate differently and it's a different agreement, but in terms of, how that audience would take to a change like that, what they would look for in a new ride. Those are all things that I find very interesting, just dealing with a completely different culture in that way. But if it is true, I do imagine Disney is either footing the whole thing or a large portion of the bill to get that replaced. But either way, that is going to be it though for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Disney World, Universal Studios, Epic Universe, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about this rumor? And do you think it is going to happen? And what ride do you think would replace Splash Mountain out in Tokyo Disneyland? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.